Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, Kat.
How's it going over there?
Decent.
Yeah,
How about with you?
doing all right. Fighting fire ants in our backyard,
Well, you know.
as you do, with Dawn dish soap because we're. It's probably not going to work, but we're going to try it. We'll
Did
see.
you Google it? And it was
Oh,
like,
we Googled the hell out of that. We're like, what? I don't want to buy any of this stuff. Yeah, so
no,
Dawn
I
dish
get
soap
that.
we had.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it might work. Yeah. I was gonna say I fought off. Well, I didn't. I didn't do it, but I've seen it done. Yellow jackets because they nest in the ground with gasoline, which
Oh,
is a little
God, that's
sad.
terrible. Yeah.
I know. I was like 12 and I saw my neighbor do it, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, that's an old school way to do it. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty much determined by the EPA and others that it's probably against the law, but
Yeah, that was well they didn't set it on fire, but still
no.
anyway, it's
Yeah.
definitely not yeah,
Don't put gasoline
not happy.
in a place that could soak into your groundwater. I mean, it'll work. It'll kill them, I'm sure, but
Mhm.
everything else will also die,
Well,
including local
probably.
fish and yeah.
Yeah,
But
probably.
yeah, and then you use the Dawn dish soap to wash them off. So
Yeah, there you go.
there you go.
Perfect.
I'm counteracting your neighbor's gasoline with
Yeah,
my
there
Dawn
you go.
dish soap. But okay, so that's not what we're talking about tonight. It is the end of summer. It is our last episode of the season and the year. Just gonna say that up front. We are taking the rest of the year off just because things have been so hectic.
Yeah.
Um, we will be posting some of our favorite episodes and your favorite episodes so that you have something to remember us by for the next few months. But we'll come back in 2025 with our fresh season 6 of political and activism.
Yeah,
Greening up my
advocacy for
act.
for
Yeah.
non-activists.
Yes. Advocacy for non-activists. I like that.
Yeah.
AFNA. So, uh, but yes. So tonight, however, you like traveling internationally.
Mhm.
I like traveling internationally. Our news algorithms know that about us and have fed us some news recently. I'm sure you've heard
Yeah.
about recent protests in Europe, especially Barcelona, telling
Mhm.
tourists to go home.
Right.
Okay, the reason for this is overtourism. Overtourism has had a big impact on local ecosystems, economies, and daily life, especially since tourism's return since the pandemic.
Mhm. That makes
This,
sense.
yep, because everybody's back on their boats, or I guess planes, as the case may be. Yeah.
Right.
This global problem spans popular European cities like Barcelona and Venice, historical or cultural destinations like Machu Picchu or Angkor Wat, and natural wonders like the Great Barrier Reef or the white sandy beaches of Bali.
Hmm.
It's all over the place.
Interesting.
And communities there are demanding protection from overtourism. And mindful travelers like us are demanding ways to see these Instagrammable wonders of the world without destroying them.
Hmm. Yep.
Unfortunately, governments tend to be more interested in the income tourism makes than its environmental impact. So
Right.
regulations tend to be slow or come only from major backlash. So,
Mhm.
what's a tourism heavy locale to do? Enter the eco friendly hotel.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
These spaces aim to ease the minds of incoming travelers while improving their local communities by balancing tourism needs with the needs of people and places and animals that live there. It's a broad, big ask. Can they pull it off? Or is it all just a marketing tactic full of green hooey? Welcome to Greening Up My Act.
Hmm. All right.
Yes, very scripted tonight. I wrote almost every word, so I might look like I'm reading from a screen if you're watching on YouTube, but hopefully it's not too distracting.
No, but that's so interesting because
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I love how you tied the two topics together.
Well, they are tied. If you read into overtourism, it's one of the first things that comes up is
Wow,
how,
that's so
yeah,
funny because it was
yeah.
sort of a fluke that we were like, oh, let's just,
Yeah, we'll just combine them. It ends up
yeah,
they dovetail quite nicely.
nice. Okay,
So, yeah.
very cool.
But I guess we should start with the question, who are we?
Who are we? I can answer that for the most part. So we are two marketing writers who were interested in kind of like sustainable products, but because we've done marketing before, we can see through a lot of the fluff that people write about products and brands. And so we're like, I wonder how much of this applies to green marketing and green products. And so we were really curious about looking at products to see if they're actually like doing what they claim to be doing. But then also as we've gone on, this is like 50 something episodes in. Maybe
Yeah, we're almost
60.
60. We're at 59. Yeah.
Wow.
Plus bonus episodes and Patreon. So
Yeah.
we're over 60 mark,
Yeah. So as we've gone on, it's been like, we've been grappling with this whole idea of like, does my individual purchasing whatever habits, do they matter or do they not really matter? And do I need to be doing more? And what is that more? So yeah, this season we're looking at transportation, but we're looking a little bit broader. And then next season we're going to look at like advocacy and stuff. So
yeah.
as mentioned. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And it's a sloppy, messy, figuring it out, real life kind of podcast.
And a lot of fun. And I think like the conversations, great conversations with my highly educated twin sister who does this kind of as a lifestyle, the way that you're supposed to. So she has a lot of input on things, and it's been great, I think.
It's been so cool to chat with people like our listeners and people that we know and just get
even strangers. Yeah.
Strangers, yeah. Yeah, it's been really cool. And I feel like I got really disheartened for a little while there because I was like, this doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But then now I'm kind of like coming back round. I'm like, you know what? Local action matters. It does matter what you do locally. So
yeah,
because it spreads.
Yeah, it does. And every little change you can make is worth it. Even if it's really up to the big players, corporations, and the government.
Yeah.
To handle the big stuff, we can, as consumers, make little changes in our lives that really make a difference. So,
and put the pressure on companies to not be awful.
Yeah, which I will go into in this episode.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Yeah. I would like to get into my sources really quick. I had like 7 or 6, so we try to keep it to 5, but. First of all, National Geographic, I used 2 articles from them. One was on renewable energy, how hotels make a difference, and what sustainable tourism means.
Okay.
There was a consulting group called Proven Partners that said what makes a hotel eco-friendly. They appear to help hotels become sustainable and eco-friendly, so they kind of had a market tactic on that, but they had a lot of information on what exactly an eco-friendly hotel is.
Okay.
A website called The Conversation, why Australia might be at risk of overtourism. I got a lot of overtourism stats from them. Also an article from a university, UNSW Sydney, the carbon footprint of Airbnb is likely bigger than you think. Oh. Which actually, I'll get into that, but I didn't talk about Airbnb. I thought I would talk about Airbnbs more, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And then finally, CNN had an article on eco-friendly hotels and greenwashing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
the irony, because for my eco-friendly luggage episode, CNN was like
all over
devouring Paravel.
Yeah, you got to think these news corporations are also giant, and so individual results may vary. So.
Well, but also I forgot to mention, I was going to mention this. There was like a 15% off discount from CNN for Paravel, and I was like, that is so weird. That's like influencer marketing shit, but
I wonder did they have a little like disclaimer at the top that like
I didn't even look at that actually. They probably did.
Yeah, it's so hidden, but like so much of news reporting nowadays is like a review based on we paid you to do this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they probably got a kickback of some kind for that one, but
probably.
I don't know. Who knows? You found a lot of information. That's what matters.
Yeah, it was helpful. I mean, it was helpful because they actually interviewed the owners, so it was like that was really useful.
That's totally worth it. Well, so what are we talking about tonight? I did put a note in here. I started to look into Airbnbs and their eco impact, but there's a lot there. And eco-friendly hotels is a more, I think, focused way of looking at this. Um, Airbnbs do contribute to overtourism, which we'll find, but they're also really hard to quantify because they're run by individuals and not like large brands. So while the Airbnb brand has a lot of sustainability promises on their website, I don't think they're surveying every single property owner regarding like how much single-use plastic they use or like how much water they use. So it's
Right.
like they might be I didn't get really deep into it. I'm sure they're probably advising Airbnb owners on how to like be more eco-friendly, but that was just too big of a thing, a
Yeah.
chunk to bite off for this episode. So maybe we'll do another one in the future about it, but I'm not focusing on Airbnbs here. So
Okay.
two things we're talking about tonight: over tourism and eco-friendly hotels.
Okay.
So first, what is over tourism? It's what happens when a popular site takes on more tourists than it can accommodate, whether that's physically, infrastructurally, economically, or emotionally. So I made all of those terms up. Those did not come from an article. That's just my interpretation. And I'll explain each in its own. So first of all, physically, if you have too many people visiting a site, it can deteriorate. So this happens with Machu Picchu. It's being destroyed by too many people trampling all over it. You know, they've put restrictions in place as to how many people can see it a day.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So just sheer, I mean, it's just like our roads or anything else that you use. More people use them, the more worn out they get. Human beings also cause physical damage to natural wonders like people carving their stupid names into redwood trees or just casually damaging sensitive barrier reefs, right? Or coral.
Yeah. Ugh.
And let's not forget the trash and other pollutants people are prone to generate. Also, another way that tourists damage things physically is that more tourism leads to more vandalism and looting. It can be very hard to police these sites when there's like millions of people walking over them in a year. So, for instance, Angkor Wat loses statues, like heads of statues. People come and cut off the heads of the statues and sell them to the black market every year.
What?
Yeah. So that's physical damage, intentional physical damage. And then also, over too many people in a place, so this physical damage can be dangerous physically to visitors. So, for instance, overcrowding on Mount Everest
Oh, well,
means, yeah, that there's slowdowns in the Sherpa's ability to get people on or off the mountain. And so people will die of altitude sickness and exposure.
Yep.
So that's,
that was a whole
yeah,
hullabaloo a
yeah.
couple years ago.
It's terrifying. Okay, and then infrastructurally, and these all kind of meld together on some sense. So infrastructurally, a location may not have enough accommodations for visiting guests. They might not have the streets to deal with the traffic. They might not have the energy provision to power hotels or like just charging your iPhone every day. They might not have enough food or water to account for guests and locals at the same time. So they may just not have the infrastructure to support the large amounts of people showing up.
Right.
Then economically, this is a big one for a lot of tourist areas and probably the most visible, the one that we've been hearing about in Barcelona and Venice. So when you have a place with high amounts of tourism, it increases the cost of living for locals without necessarily raising their wages.
Ah.
So high traffic areas where tourists like to go mean more Airbnbs. More Airbnbs mean more people, more investors or long-term rental investors taking over houses that
Right.
could have been on the market for locals or jacking up the prices because they're out of town money.
Right.
So locals can't afford the property anymore. Tourists are more likely willing to spend more for basics than a non-tourist, so they are willing to pay for inflated groceries, gas, or gifts than they would be at home. And often tourists have more money than the local folks, so again, prices go up.
Right.
Also, tourists want the comforts of home, so you get McDonald's and Starbucks, which may overpower local restaurants or grocery stores. And if tourism is a seasonal thing, it may mean more jobs during those seasons, but what about during the off season? So all of a sudden I mean, that happens in a lot of places where non-locals show up over the summer and you have a whole different economy than you do during the winter.
Yeah.
So how do you account for that? It can be kind of devastating in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
totally. Even my hometown, I grew up in this little town in Indiana, and it's like a tourist destination because
Hmm.
it's very pretty.
Yeah.
It's hilly and has a state park and all these things. And we get thousands of tourists in October to see the leaves.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the economy.
Yeah.
It's
That was,
October.
yeah, that's true in Chama, New Mexico. The train runs from May to October, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone works for the train.
Yeah.
And then you have an off season, you know.
Yeah.
What do you do over the winter? And
Yep.
when a lot of people live there just during the summer. It's a nice place to summer because it only gets up to 80 degrees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the mountains, and then they're all gone. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Then you also have emotionally. This is the one I was like, well, how can I say this? Emotionally. This one I made up, really. It's about how hundreds or thousands or millions of out-of-town visitors can ruin the soul of a place, you know?
Ah.
Like, have you ever tried to see the Mona Lisa at the Louvre?
No.
Okay, good, because it fucking sucks. There's too many people. And because there's too many, it's secured behind this like plexiglass. So basically, you're just seeing reflections of people. It's, this big. You can't get close. You can't sit and meditate with it like you're supposed to,
Right.
or like check out the brush strokes,
Right.
So all of those Instagrammable sites we see on influencers' reels, like have you ever seen the Instagram versus reality reels where they're like,
I think so.
yeah, they'll be like, here's this beautiful site, and then they have like what it really looks like,
With
you
all the
know,
people.
all the
And
people, and yeah, it's just overcrowded. It's unfun to visit, you know.
mm-hmm.
Then you get noise pollution, you know. You're going to this beautiful beach, this secluded desert island, and you're just going to hear whatever stupid music the local or the touristic 20-somethings are blasting on their Bluetooth speakers.
Right.
It's like the absolute worst way to ruin a natural wonder, right?
No, it's so true.
Just, you go to the redwood forest to see beautiful nature and sit in the quiet, and you're just getting like Katy Perry, a remix, blasted
I
to your
just saw
ears.
a meme of shoot, I can't remember what the original meme was, but it's a guy from Portlandia. What's his name?
Fred,
Yeah, Fred Armisen.
yeah.
Yeah. He's like, jail, straight to jail. Like, whenever you hear somebody with a Bluetooth speaker on a trail, it's just like, so true. It just
100%.
ruins it. Or camping. And you're like,
Yes.
why? You're camping.
You can't be alone with your thoughts for 30
Yeah.
seconds. You
Yep.
need Pitbull to dictate. I don't even know the artists. I guess I should saying like Chapel Roan and Sabrina Carpenter have to
Yeah,
come with you on your
barely.
trip.
Yeah, barely. I'm like, Britney Spears? No.
Yeah, I know. Who's cool now? Christina Aguilera. She's one of the hip new ones. All of my stuff is like from 2010. That's the last time I knew. I even barely knew anything relevant. So
Same.
yeah. So that's over tourism in a nutshell. And you've seen it. You know it.
Yeah.
You've been there. You've seen it.
Yes.
You can think
So
of a
many.
dozen things in the back of your head where you're like, yep, the petroglyphs in Albuquerque are being vandalized all the time. And,
Yeah, Iceland was crazy when we
Yeah.
were there. And that wasn't even as bad as some places. Like, we went to the Grand Tetons, and we had to wait. It was like so much traffic. And you're
Yeah.
like, these are beautiful mountains, and yet we're just sitting in our car.
the Grand Canyon, you have
Oh,
to
I'm
like
sure.
go at dawn or dusk because otherwise it's just a line to get into the park. And, it's interesting because it'll be like places that show up on influencers feeds. Iceland has been cool for a couple of years now, and then it'll turn to Bali has been everybody's like, you have to see Angkor Wat, and these are places that 50 years ago it's like you maybe knew that one weird kid who went backpacking after college or before college who
Yeah.
had been to these off the beaten path places. They're no longer off the beaten path.
No.
There is a firmly beaten path and is overbeaten.
Totally.
So it's like, and how are you supposed to find out about places that aren't that way? And they don't want to get that way.
Yeah,
Nobody
that's
wants
the
to be the
thing.
next Machu Picchu.
Yes, that's the
So,
thing. That's
yeah.
the thing.
So yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk put all of that thought process over here, and now
Okay.
we're going to talk about what is an eco-friendly hotel.
All right.
Okay. An eco-friendly hotel is a hotel that has policies and procedures in place to reduce their carbon footprint and that of their guests while boosting the local ecosystem and economy. They attempt to address some of the impact of overtourism through these commitments. So, according to USNW Sydney, collectively, accommodation accounts for about 1% of global emissions.
Wait, sorry. Say that again.
Accommodation accounts for about 1% of global emissions. So we all know, like, passenger vehicles are our worst culprit. We know that, airplanes do less. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that factory farming is a pretty big contributor, but it's mostly passenger vehicles. Okay. Of those global emissions, that's 1%, but it's 20% of tourism emissions. So everything that goes into tourism, including your flight there, your transportation to the site, all of that, 20% of your emissions or anyone's emissions during a trip are done by the hotel they stay in, or the Airbnb, or the motel. That's everything. It's anywhere people stay. That, energy, all those things. The Sustainable Hospitality Alliance said in 2021 that the goal should be for hotels to reduce their carbon emissions by 90% to get in line with the Paris Agreement thresholds. Wow. For us just to raise the global temperature 2 degrees Celsius, like 5 degrees Fahrenheit, just hotels, need to reduce their emissions by 90%.
Whoa.
So that's kind of terrifying, right? That's a huge. But consumers have noticed, right? We want more than just the please hang your towels placard in the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Nat Geo reported that a survey from Booking.com said 78% of people in 2022 said they wanted to stay in a sustainable property that year. So that's a good majority of people, almost 4 out of 5. However, 31% of the respondents to that said they didn't know it was an option. And 29% didn't know where to find them in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my question, kind of. But I know I've stayed in a bunch of them. It's just like...
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get into that.
Yeah.
But first, I think it's a good idea to take a break.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Welcome back. So our next question that we've been asking, and this ties in pretty well, it kind of explains, well, what eco-friendly claims are eco-friendly hotels making? And this is basically a more in-depth definition of what makes an eco-friendly hotel. So eco-friendly hotels aim to have a positive impact on the local economy while balancing impact on the local environment and reducing the carbon footprint of both their people who stay there and the people who work there. So it's like a whole holistic approach, right? There are 5 things specifically that make a hotel eco-friendly. Number 1, energy saving systems. So they have to work on reducing how much energy they use. It takes a lot to light up a hotel.
Right, yeah.
Not to mention manage its indoor temperature and comfort level.
Right.
And kitchens, etc. So there's a lot that goes into running a hotel. Energy management includes installing like LED light bulbs, renewable energy, solar or wind, upgrading HVAC systems and appliances, or improving insulation.
Okay.
So a lot of this can be addressed through LEED design, LEED, or eco-certified buildings, right? Also, making sure housekeeping turns off TVs and lights when they visit your room. The hotels that you have to put your key in the slot to turn the lights on in your room is one way.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that one we stayed at in Chicago like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That was pretty cool.
Most hotels in Europe are like that, too.
Okay.
So that's energy reduction and saving. Like they have to create some kind of energy saving system. Excuse me. Now, number two is they have to use sustainable local products.
Okay.
This means everything from the food they serve to the toiletries, linens, and artwork should be sourced locally. This cuts
Okay.
down on your carbon footprint, first of all, by reducing the amount of transportation you need to get it to the hotel in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It also supports the local economy, especially farmers and artisans. It creates interest in local artisans among tourists. So if you stock local stuff in the gift store or hang local artwork in the hallways, that's a great way to include the locals who are already doing this kind of artwork, but then also offering it for sale. It's this perpetually feeding system, which is good.
Yeah.
They also need to focus on hiring local workers,
Mm.
which is interesting because I know there are a lot of hotel programs that bring in, well, so they say from the maintenance and cleaning crews all the way up to upper management.
Okay.
So, a lot of hotels have these kind of exchange programs where you go to a hotel school in Italy and then you work at a hotel in New York. They're trying to kind of limit that. You
Okay.
want, if you're going to support the local economy, you keep those jobs local, which means you have to create local training programs too.
Yeah.
That was something we came across in Chama. It was like people who live in Chama maybe have never been to a city bigger than Albuquerque. They've never stayed in a five-star hotel. They've never, they don't know what five-star accommodations look like or what five-star
Yeah.
service looks like. So you have to
Right.
create a training program to make that. So it's a reoccurring investment in that sense.
Yeah.
Food was a big issue as well, like where you get your food from. Obviously, that we talked about that in compost and food waste episodes in previous seasons, that transportation of food and stuff is ridiculous how it affects carbon emissions. So
Yeah.
if you can hook up with the local farmers market to get your food, you're not only supporting a local economy, but you're also reducing your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And small farming is better than factory farming, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that they're supposed to focus on as an eco-friendly hotel.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Number three was water saving systems. Okay, hotels use a ton of water. You got linens to wash, you got kitchens to run, you got showers, toilets, laundry. I already said laundry, but dishes to wash, tons and tons. Oh, lawns, so much water. So they say, in the rooms, installing low flow toilets, showers, aerators on faucets, then also doing water recycling. So using gray water to water the lawns, etc. Asking you to reuse your towels or not get your bed sheets changed every day is like the bare minimum for that.
Yeah.
It saves them money, obviously, but it's a way to get your guests involved because that reduces the amount of laundry you have to do.
One thing I've seen, which I guess, I don't know if this is really eco-friendly, it's more like a economic thing, but some hotels, especially nicer ones, will have like a specific towel for makeup. So like it's a darker color.
Yeah,
because
the
they
black
don't want
towel.
you. Yeah, they don't want you like wiping your mascara all over their nice white towels. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
and then they have to use more
impossible to
bleach.
get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's a little thing, right? But it adds up.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, I have a frog in my throat tonight, but they say the hotel also needs to not have like plunge pools or fountains if they're in a drought-ridden area. So you don't get your plunge pool in Las Vegas,
What is a plunge pool?
It's a pool that's like on the balcony of your room.
Oh.
So it's a smaller
Clearly I
pool.
don't.
It's not for swimming, it's just for dipping in, right?
Okay, clearly
It's for
I don't
plunging.
stay in
Yeah.
luxury hotels, so I understand that.
We can talk about that. But yeah, there are a lot of, in Mexico, in, a lot of island countries have like an individual pool.
Yeah.
Definitely in South Africa when we went on safari, plunge pools in a lot of the safari lodges. So
Interesting.
even though South Africa was so drought ridden, but they also engaged in things like they asked visitors not to flush the toilet unless they went number 2. So
Interesting.
if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's
So,
brown,
like,
flush it down.
They did that in that South Africa.
In South Africa, that was a thing they would
okay.
kind of ask you to do. Like, please don't flush this toilet unless you have to.
Okay, that's fine, but then also think about your plunge pools. Anyway, it's fine.
Well, I know it depended on the place. I mean,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I gotcha.
Okay, so the fourth standard is non-toxic and natural, which are two of my favorite Green Hui terms ever.
Yeah.
So beyond sourcing everything they can locally, eco-friendly hotels want to minimize the impact of those items on the environment.
Okay.
So this means they're going to try to use non-toxic or natural or biodegradable soaps or products for
Uh-huh.
dishwashing and laundry, cleaning products that aren't harmful to the environment, won't affect wastewater, won't affect
Mm-hmm.
local ecosystems. They want to opt for minimal or recyclable packaging on all of those items that they use.
Okay.
Also for like in-house service products. So you're supposed to get glass bottles of water and not plastic bottles of water. They want to use natural linens that won't bother sensitive skin. And, as we talked about in our fast fashion episode, aren't plastic,
Yeah.
yeah, for bedding and towels. But again, where the cotton is grown matters as well, right?
Right.
So no rayon. They want 100% cotton bedding and lint and towels, but from sustainable farms, which is a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
But also those are more eco-friendly than rayon or something because they biodegrade or can be recycled in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
A good eco-friendly hotel will avoid single-use plastics whenever they can. This includes those tiny hotel shampoos.
Right.
So you start seeing in the high-end hotels reusable communal containers that they refill.
Okay, I've seen those.
Yeah.
I won't say it's a high-end hotel because I don't know how many of those I stayed in, but yeah, I've seen those, and those are like they just make a lot more sense actually.
Yeah.
It's just a little pump thing, right? In the
Yeah.
shower. Yeah.
Yeah. And they usually put a sticker on it that shows that nobody's fiddled with it, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only thing is they have to keep up on refilling it. That's the hard part. Like you're out of lotion and you're like,
Yeah, that's fair.
but yeah. And then, yeah, I admit I have enjoyed taking those little bottles home and putting them in my guest shower.
Oh, everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when they're really nice.
Oh yeah.
Like the
You got
good
Lilabo,
brands.
like that hotel in Chicago we
Yes,
stayed at. They had
yes, yes.
Lilabo, and I was like, yoink! Like, how many times will
Yep.
housekeeping refill this?
Yep. Yep.
Christmas gift for my boyfriend. Yeah.
Yes,
So
exactly.
yeah. But
Usually I don't take them though because I know I'm probably not gonna use them. Maybe sometimes when I travel I'll take like
I
a shampoo, but
I'll take a shampoo and a conditioner, just because I do use them.
yeah,
Like when I travel and stuff.
yeah,
And when guests come, I can just be like, here you go, here's your set.
yeah.
I do use them, but yeah, I'm okay with those. The other thing is, there's a trick. You can take your refillable containers when there are the communal ones and just fill your refillable container. Just something. Yeah, it's my thrifty boyfriend is always like, go take the reusable shampoo and bring it back.
So funny.
Yeah, he also likes me to take a Ziploc to the airport lounge with me and fill it with trail mix, which is smart actually. But yeah.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, so the fifth check on the list is carbon neutrality, which is another Green Hui fave of mine and yours.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So on top of reducing their impact altogether, eco-friendly hotels are supposed to offset the carbon they do use. Our favorite Band-Aid. But this can be done, of course, through tree planting programs. Usually they try to say that they plant local forests or local trees through local charities. So if they're partnering with a local community group, again, going back into the local economy, going back into the local ecosystem, working on that.
See, that seems a lot more legit than these other ones.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on some properties are just like, yeah, we plant trees. Again, like, are you planting trees in Afghanistan?
Right.
Are you planting eucalyptus that takes more water? Or what are you doing?
Right, right, right.
But another place where this shows up is food waste, right? So hotels have giant buffets or giant servings of food that
Yep.
just go straight in the trash can. So they engage in composting or donating to food banks or,
Okay.
don't have a buffet at all. That can
Right.
be important. This goes hand in hand with getting their food from, local sustainable providers, right? And then some hotels actually have started charging a meat tax for any item on the menu because meat obviously has a larger carbon impact. And they say that they donate it to local charities that fight climate change, which I
Oh,
thought
wow.
was an interesting
That's
take on
cool.
that. Yeah. So obviously there are like these are the 5 ways, and I gave you some lists of different ways that hotels do this. Almost every hotel will have their own methods of doing this, is the
Mm-hmm.
problem. So that's when we get into, do these claims hold up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they can. Yes, they can. Very much. But only if the hotel is actually putting their money where their mouth is. And this is the problem. It's kind of up to you as a consumer to figure out which hotels are actually eco-friendly and which aren't.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that they say when you read up on this is that a lot of hotels have been doing this for a long time, but they're not really upfront about it. Like you have to click on a different page to get their sustainability impact statement and look at it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like right up front they're like, "We are an eco-friendly hotel."
Yeah.
You have to know what you're looking for and you have to go search it out. They'll have it up. They're not hiding it. But you
They're
have
not very good at marketing.
no, they're not very good at marketing it. Well, because they're marketing the location and they're marketing,
Yeah.
until it becomes a much bigger issue with consumers, they're not really going to market it.
Hmm.
A few ways, a few signs you can look out for to see if they're really truly an eco-friendly hotel versus just like green hooey marketing gurus. Number one, look for science-backed targets on reducing energy, carbon, water, waste, etc. So they should have KPIs, right? Limits that they're trying to hit that are based on science, not just like we planted a rose bush out in the garden and that makes us eco-friendly. No, they need to have like we want to reduce our carbon impact by this much. Here's where we know our carbon impact is generated and here's the science behind it. This is how we know and this is how we're going to judge ourselves. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Look for those. Also, actual details on how they're working with the community are important.
Okay.
So if they say they work with the community, you want a list. You want like, we hire local people. We have a local training program. We work with this local sustainability charity. Like for instance, a lot of the hotels on beaches work with local like sea turtle conservation. And they're like,
Okay.
they come on and they set up things to make sure that we don't disturb the sea turtles. Like we're
Okay.
working with them and they have proof of that. They
That's
say who
really
they
cool.
are and how they work with them.
Yeah.
Certifications from certain entities. Now this means they have an outside auditor making sure they're hitting their targets.
Okay.
However, not all certifications are created equal.
Of course they're not, because
course not.
my God.
Yeah, there are dozens and dozens. But the articles I read said that hotels approved by the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, LEED certified buildings, Green Keys, and Green Seal are all good places to start. Those
Okay.
you can trust.
Okay.
A final really good indicator that a hotel is really putting their money where their mouth is an annual sustainability report.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they're doing that, I mean that's a big deal.
Yeah. So that, beyond just saying, yeah, we know we need to reduce our carbon emissions, they're showing how and why
Okay.
in a report every year that they put the time and effort into.
It's interesting because we stayed at a little, it wasn't even a hotel, it was more like a bungalow situation. We actually
Yeah.
stayed at quite a few of those while we were in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And especially with this one in particular, they're doing a lot of the things that you're talking about, but I don't think they even advertise themselves
Right.
as like
They don't even-
ecotourism.
And I think in a lot of countries outside of the US, like I'm thinking of like all of the little bed and breakfasts across Ireland, that were specifically set up after World War II so that war widows had income.
That's so
They
interesting.
definitely do all these things. And also it's like more culturally acceptable in foreign nations not to have bottled water, to have reuse it.
Right.
Like they use like small dishwashers. They use, they hang their laundry to dry. These are all things they already do because it's more energy efficient. Also because energy costs a lot more money there than it does here. So like American hotels just kind of willy-nilly with their plastic bottles and their, wash your towels
yeah.
after every use. But it's just culturally ingrained in these other cultures. They already do this. And so
Right.
why wouldn't they do it in the hotel?
Yeah, it's like there was no AC. That just
Yeah.
wasn't going to be a thing. They're not going to change our sheets every day, and we don't
No.
expect them to.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't even think they did while we were there. I'm sure if we had asked, but I don't care. I mean, I sleep. It's not
I
even.
know. I
I
sleep on the same
wash
sheets
my
at
own
home.
sheets
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
every day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They didn't have a pool. It was just on the beach. Easy.
Yeah.
They didn't have a buffet. They just
Yeah.
had us order what we
Yeah. You
wanted.
order what you need when you need it. Yeah.
They had a bunch of like, I mean, what seemed like local people working there. They weren't white, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so that was another thing is that transparency is key, right? And most hotels don't even know to tout these eco-friendly benefits that they're already
Right.
doing.
Right.
But recently, a nonprofit called Travelist started creating a badge that highlights sustainability information on popular booking sites, so like
Oh, cool.
Google, Expedia, Booking.com. And it ends up there are about 400,000 sustainable properties around the world,
Whoa.
from luxury to mid-range and budget hotels that like Travelist has uncovered. So
That's
again, the
awesome.
people are doing work to get the word out, you
Very
know.
cool.
Yeah. You also need to look out for the difference between improvements and an actual commitment to sustainability. So, for instance, a hotel that uses 40,000 kilowatts of electricity a day can just cut that down to 35,000 kilowatts a day and say they've improved sustainably. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really a commitment to sustainability.
Yeah.
You need to see it should be reducing over time continually,
Yeah.
and like real concerted efforts. They need to get rid of that
90%.
1,000 watt, yeah, incandescent display in the front.
Right.
So yeah, look out for that. But yeah, basically they hold up. If they're committed to their community and locality, eco-friendly hotels can also teach visitors about the importance of the local environment, often by getting them involved. So this can help with some of the impacts of overtourism. If people
Mm-hmm.
who are staying at a hotel are aware of, local culture, local customs, local ecological, like if they're like, look, we have these native palms, or again, those sea turtles, like you see the little stand on the beach, like now there's what the sea turtles are doing, and you're learning about why it's important to the ecosystem that they manage this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, this hotel partnered, or whatever you want to call it. I guess it's a hotel, but they partnered with this local. It was actually a pepper farm, like black pepper,
yeah. Oh,
like the spice, and
you mean
but they
why
also
Columbus came to the Americas?
yeah,
The whole problem with our modern era? Yeah, okay, Pepper, got it.
but they also had honeybees, so it was like half pepper, but then also they had a ton of honeybees, and the whole tour. They partnered with them, and you could go on a tour and like sign up for it, and it was
That's
the
cool.
coolest tour ever because
Yeah.
there was a woman who was just holding honeybees all over her hands, and she's
Yeah.
like, "They're my friends," you know. Like it was
Yeah,
just
you're
so
like,
sweet. It was so
yeah.
cool.
I did that at a winery hotel I stayed in, and they had like a local garden, and you could go on a garden tour with like the man and wife who lived on the property and managed the
Yes, it's
farm, and
awesome.
it was so cool. And they're like, yeah, these are all local, and these are, this is why we
This is
plant
my
these together.
friend the sunflower.
Yeah, exactly. It was super cool.
That's great.
So, unfortunately, it looks like consumer demand hasn't really caught up to the eco-friendly hotel craze because, according to CNN, one report on greening practices in the hotel industry showed that there's not a significant difference between green hotels and non-green hotels when it comes to revenue or occupancy. So people aren't really making the switch.
Yeah.
And again, this is probably because travelers are trying to manage price, availability, convenience more than they're trying to check their green credentials. And to be honest, hotels haven't really figured out how to push their green credentials forward that much anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's
So it's an
really
awareness
interesting.
problem. Yeah.
In my mind, it's going to be expensive, which would for me be a barrier, but
So
it's clearly not the
it's
case.
not. It's not. And then the thing is that, yeah, you have to. Hotels are doing the work. Most hotels are actually doing the work. A lot of hotels are doing the work. that Motel 6 that I stayed at, or the Wyndham Suites, whatever it was in friggin' Lubbock, not doing it. Okay, I'll tell you what, they are not. But a lot of places are and just don't know how to talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting because it's kind of the opposite of what like a lot of companies are doing, where they're trying to hide the bad things they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like hotels are
Mm-hmm.
just kind of accidentally hiding the good things they're doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of refreshing, but also a little frustrating because it means it's on the
Yeah.
consumer to figure it out.
Right. That's so fascinating.
But that gets us into our next question.
So it's like the anti-greenwashing.
Yeah, it's like accidental green hiding. Yeah. Green obfuscation.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, is this something a normal person could do or afford? That is our question this season. And the answer is yes. Thanks to Travelist and that transparency and sustainability efforts, you can likely find an eco-friendly hotel in your budget and know that it is eco-friendly. However,
I
some
said
consider-
nice, but my mic was
Oh, okay.
muted. Sorry.
Yes. Some considerations in this. More expensive hotels have a bigger budget to make more of these changes possible, right? So hotel
Yeah.
conglomerates like Marriott and, you know, I guess Marriott Bonvoy is
Omni, I feel like that's
Omni,
kind of
yeah.
a conglomerate and it's very fancy.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they have, you know, they're much more capable of doing these changes
Mm-hmm.
on a grand scale, like installing solar power or updating their appliances, right? However, boutique or small hotels may fare better on the local economy or sustainable sourcing, but they might not be able to make much of an impact through those other changes that we mentioned,
Yeah.
big ticket changes. So that's, you can probably find a small hotel that's in your budget that does eco-friendly practices, thanks to Travelist. So,
Okay.
um,
Cool.
but it is definitely worth it to book with an eco-friendly hotel if you're traveling, if you care about your impact on the local ecosystems and the economy, especially if you're going someplace that is notoriously over-touristed, which I would say maybe don't go there, which we'll get into in a second. It won't cost you more most of the time.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I'm looking up Travelist. Is this the Prince
No.
Harry one?
No, it's Travellyst.
I think this is it says led by Prince Harry.
Is it?
of
Oh, shoot.
Sussex, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with him.
We just made
changing
fun of the
way-
Rockefellers last week, and this week we're like, yeah, Prince Harry. We love heirs to giant fortunes.
Changing the way we travel for good is at the website.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
do feel like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle do a lot of kind of cool stuff.
Yeah,
their
well,
power.
they do a lot in general. Yeah, it was founded by Prince Harry. That is so interesting.
I did not know that. I just kind of was like, yeah, this is this thing that's happened. I should have looked more into it.
No,
Cool.
I mean it's fascinating. That's so funny to me. God, they do too much. I think people are a little burnt out on them, but that's a whole other conversation.
Just tell your algorithm you're tired of them and turn them off for a season.
I already have, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, cool. Good on them.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, better than starting a new like drink company like every
Yeah.
other celebrity does.
Or a perfume or a clothing
or
line.
wine or
Yeah. Whiskey. Tequila.
Mm.
What we really need is another white movie star making tequila. Okay. Anyway, another thing that can make this easier on you is to start asking hotels about their policies to get them to cough up the information and possibly change their ways. So they've got to live up to customer demand, and you are the customer.
Right.
So you can call them ahead of time and be like, hey, do you do reusable, do you give bottles away? What do how do you deal with your laundry? How do you deal with your food? Ask them. Make them put it on the menu. Make them put it on the website. Be like, hey. And if you write a Google review of the place, include that information. FYI,
Right.
I used a quarter bottle of shampoo and they replaced it 3 times. you know,
Right.
and that was unnecessary. And I ask them and they throw them away if you don't use them, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, the last part I want to get into here is kind of still part of this. Is this something a normal person can do and afford? National Geographic pointed out ways you can save money and make less of an ecological impact. Go camping. Camp where you go instead of staying at a hotel or an Airbnb. It's economical. It's more work. There's fewer comforts of home, but it makes a difference.
Right. And
again,
it's so fun.
yeah, they're not going to wash your sheets in the campground. You're not going to
You
get...
may not have a toilet.
Yeah, well, maybe you can find them.
Depending on the campsite.
The campsite. Yeah, we're not talking about total rugged camping. We're talking about pretty improved. There's
not
probably
primitive sites.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, like if you're in a park, like a legit park, you're probably going to have...
Especially U.S. national parks have great stuff.
Yeah, they have like hot showers even.
Yeah. A lot of these places that are highly touristic have these options,
But even a compost toilet isn't bad.
No, not the worst thing that's ever happened.
No.
I have trouble pooping in the woods, personally. I'm a shy pooper. I can pee, fine. Pooping, difficult.
You're like Charlie.
Yeah. Like, no.
Never once pooped at school.
No, I didn't until I was probably 13. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. Yeah. We have a long way to go.
I don't know where it came from. It's not like there was any traumatic experience. It's just...
It's funny.
I wanted to be alone while I pooped.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Another way to do this is to go somewhere closer to home in the first place.
Yeah.
Be a tourist in your own state or your own city. You can even stay at home or stay with a friend,
Yeah. We just camped out in my brother-in-law's backyard.
Yeah. That's cool.
Cousins. It was very cute.
It's, not quite as Instagrammable, but there's probably lots of stuff in your hometown that you don't even know.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So, yeah. Yeah.
It's like all the things that tourists come to do in your area are the last things that you do.
Yeah.
But doing them is really fun, actually.
Yeah. I feel that way about the balloon fiesta in New Mexico. Like in Albuquerque, everybody's like, oh, the fucking traffic. But it's like, it's really fun. And it looks corny, but it's really, you're like standing around with dragons,
That's awesome.
And I used to ride my bike to the park. There's free valet bike parking. And
nice.
Yeah. And it's just beautiful because it's at dawn. You're like riding the bike trail at dawn.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. It's nice and cold. It's October. I don't know. I recommend it.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last question is the granola rating, which is a way that Tiffany came up with, which I adore, of ranking the product, service, whatever we're doing on how great it is, basically, with a 1 to 5 rating, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, 1 being soggy granola, 2 being mushy. Yeah, you don't want a soggy granola. 3 being chewy, which is fair to middling. Crunchy granola, the 4th, is great, but break your tooth off is what we're aiming for. We want the crunchiest granola possible. And I oscillated between a chewy and a crunchy on this. I think I'm aiming more towards crunchy. It's not quite break your tooth off. It's refreshing that hotels are doing this kind of their own accord. Like, nobody's policing them on it. But they're probably the best way to travel if you can't camp or you simply must go see Santorini, right? They're not a cure-all, but they do help reduce the impact of tourism while trying to conserve the local ecosystem and improve the local economy and the life of the people, the local community. So as long as you stay in a place that's really eco-friendly and not just green hooey, I'd say this is a crunchy.
Nice.
But I wanted to knock it back half a point just because of how hard it can be to find truly eco-friendly hotels right now and how cost is a barrier to entry for a lot of cool places. Like, they may not be able to do all those sustainable goals. It's still something that's worth doing the research on, though, I think. So.
Yeah. I will say, though, places like that are more likely to feel much more communal also.
Yes.
And I feel like if you're in a new place, that's one of the coolest things you can find. Like, this same hotel, I'm realizing how much I love this one.
Yeah.
And I've stayed in so many, but it just keeps coming back to my memory. But they had every Tuesday or something, every Tuesday night, they had a communal dinner. with everybody who was
Yeah.
staying there. So
Oh,
they
that's so
scooted
cool.
all of the tables together and everybody ate dinner together. So you actually got to meet everybody. And it was so cool. And that's not going to happen at a Hyatt.
No, you're not gonna get that at the Hilton Garden Inn.
No.
Yeah. I do love. I mean, that's something about staying at the bed and breakfasts in Scotland and
Mm-hmm.
Ireland is like, and then in the evenings you all sit around the same fire and have a dram of whiskey and you
Yep.
chit chat. Yeah, it is something to be said about.
Sometimes I don't feel like chatting, but
No, and you don't have to.
yeah.
But I mean, it's even just to be in the presence of strangers, but in a calm
Mm-hmm.
way is. I don't know. It's good for us. Like we are going through a epidemic of loneliness right now, and
Yes.
just hanging out with the people in the line at the grocery store is good for your brain.
Yes.
Just saying hello
Mm-hmm.
and having
Having
a
a kid
little.
is really good for that
I'll
because
bet. Yeah, you got to
it brings up really random conversations.
having a beautiful dog for the record.
Oh, yes.
Really great way to have conversations
Yes.
with strangers. Yeah,
Yep. That's very
she's a
true.
supermodel. Everywhere we go, people are just like, "Oh my god, look at that dog!"
That's so
And then they have to come
awesome.
talk to us. Yeah, it's great.
Yes. Yeah, and actually my dog used to when we lived in DC, she used to like glom onto people for no reason. Like just decide from across the street, those are my favorite people and like have to go meet them.
Oh
And
wow.
it was so sweet. It was like everybody was always really excited. Like, ah, your dog loves me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I
I
don't
mean,
know
that's
what
the thing.
I am.
Like, that was how I met all of my friends in my last apartment complex, was at
Yeah.
the dog park. Like,
Yep.
they had a dog, I had a dog. We're friends now. We're having dinner together next week. Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I
totally.
love it.
Yeah. So,
So cool. Yeah, I approve. I love it.
awesome.
This is an awesome way to end a season on.
I think so. It was a bit longer than usual, too.
Yeah, well,
That's okay.
to be expected. We
Yeah.
had two topics in one.
We did. So, yeah, that's eco-friendly
Yum,
hotels.
yum.
The
Nice.
surprise, possible, partial solution to overtourism, other than just don't go. Just don't go.
Yeah. Yep.
Go to places that can support you
Mm-hmm.
as a tourist.
Yeah. It's hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard.
It is hard. Like, go to Paris, go to New York.
Yeah.
They're ready for you.
Yeah. That is true.
As says someone who's been to both Barcelona and Venice. But I haven't been to
Barcelona,
Angkor
though,
Wat.
you would think would be would have the
Yeah, well, and that was
structure.
another. I didn't touch on this. That was something that I read that a lot of tourism actually happens domestically. So in
Mm-hmm.
Barcelona, it'll be tourists from other parts of Spain.
Okay.
It's just Americans kind of get a bad rap,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because I don't know. This is all completely speculative. This has no statistics behind it. But like when I went on a 3-month road trip 2 summers ago, and I went to a couple national parks, and I heard a lot of French and a lot of German and a lot of Dutch and a lot of other languages, and I realized that most of the people who were going through our tourism sites were not locals because we don't have the vacation time to do it. You know, like
Yeah.
Europeans get a month off in the summer and they will take the time to go and see the amazing wonders of America's natural beauty.
Yeah, and make the
And
cost of a flight worth it.
yeah, and camp. And we will go and spend 4 harried days in Paris looking for McDonald's and Coca-Cola and complaining about how rude the locals are. Like it's such a because it takes us 15 hours to get there with 3 flight changes and we hate everything and we've got, we're just awful. And it's like because we don't really have the leisure time to do it and it's so sad. And we don't
Man.
even go to like our local national parks.
Right.
Like I went to Zion or Bryce Canyon. I went to Bryce Canyon and it was pretty empty.
Oh wow. That's
You
so
know.
interesting.
You remember that day we were having the discussion about
Yes, I do remember
I
that. Oh my
called you
gosh.
from the trail,
Oh,
the hiking
and it
trail.
was beautiful.
It was so gorgeous.
God, I was so jealous. But
Yeah.
I was also so happy I could kind of like tag
Yeah,
along.
you got some of it for me while we were having a meeting. It was probably the
Yes.
greatest remote work meeting
That
I've ever
was
had in my
so
life. But,
good. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so Americans take your vacation time. Number one, number two, go to your local national park and really check it out. 'Cause
Or
they're
national
awesome.
forests.
National
Those are even
forests.
less fun.
Yeah. Or even state parks or state forests. There's lots to do.
So many. And they're beautiful.
They're kind of underfunded and need your support. And just don't let the French take over, you know? They're just jealous they don't have their own Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have a lot in this country.
Beautiful
Everything
stuff.
you can imagine.
Yeah, it's huge.
So big.
Yeah.
Too big.
You know, not as crowded as Europe. So.
Yeah.
But, okay. So there you go.
Fascinating. All right, so we will be back
In January.
In January 2025. Sorry for the long break, but we need it, and the holidays are always really nuts anyway, so it's kind of like we're so stressed in our personal lives that we don't want to kill ourselves. We want to still enjoy this, and this has been really fun these last this season. I enjoyed it a lot. So.
Bright spot for me. I feel like we've hit our stride at the worst possible time in our personal lives.
Yes, that's what I feel the exact same way. I feel exactly that. It's so funny.
But I think we're going to keep up the Patreon. So if you want to subscribe at patreon.com/greeningupmyact, we will post something there once a month. And hopefully it's $5 a month. There is a free 7-day trial if you want to try it. But, you know, we don't make money off of this. Otherwise, we don't have advertisers. Because who wants to advertise for an anti-consumerist podcast? Except maybe, you know, the city of Cleveland and eco-friendly hotels.
And Ridwell.
And Ridwell. We'll gladly accept your donations. But, you know, it's a fun way to contribute to us and help us get back so that we do still have day jobs. And so that's kind of part of why we have to take these few months off. And we talk about more personal things on our Patreon that are not. Take a break from the eco-friendliness and think about something else, like, you know, eating disorders or the terrors of motherhood or, you know, gentle topics.
I also talked about the joys. So.
Oh, it's true. It was the joys. And, you know, we talk about modern problems and modern solutions. So.
Yes, exactly.
And follow us on Instagram or Facebook so that's probably where we'll do most of our communicating. Tell your friends to follow us and just catch up on the last 5 seasons because season 6 is going to be a mind blower. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that
one's
going to be
more time to research. So I'm
going to start researching tomorrow. I'm going to research on Christmas Eve.
There you go.
And have it all ready way before the deadline, rather than I'm not going to research the day of. Why would I do that?
That's like for ADHD people,
like me. Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, so... And then, like Kat said, we're going to be posting sort of the highlights. Reposting a couple episodes.
Yeah, things you may have missed. And you might be surprised at, like, which ones are our top views. So
yeah, I didn't mean to start that, but I did. So here
no, it's perfect. I think we could talk all night. So
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening to us for 5 seasons, and we really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I can't believe it's in 5 seasons.
I know, it's crazy.
That's insane. In the books.
Yep.
Under wraps.
High five.
High five.
All right, I'll see you soon, Tiff.
See you soon.